The Buddha once shared a quiet truth. You won't be punished for your anger, you'll be punished by it. Sit with that. How often has anger risen like a wave, then crashed, leaving only silence, fatigue, and heaviness? But there is another way, a path of peace, a space where nothing outside of you can pull your spirit off center. Anger doesn't simply arrive, it's welcomed. But in the sacred pause between what happens and how you respond lies your power. Today, we'll walk through 7 soul-deep lessons, each one a lantern guiding you from reaction to stillness. Lesson 1. Recognize the source of your anger. It feels like it's about them, the noise, the chaos, the rudeness. But truly, anger blooms from within, from old aches, unmet needs, or the fragile whisper of ego. Ask gently, why is this bothering me? What is it within me that's reacting? Even a simple traffic cutoff might simply be your expectation resisting change. Let's breathe together and begin. In the quiet moments, when a colleague's sharp words prick your pride, you may feel that familiar stir of anger rise within. But remember, this reaction, this pain, does not come solely from their words. It comes from within you, from past hurts not yet healed, from fears unspoken, from insecurities still holding sway. When you take the time to look deeply, you begin to understand. Anger is not simply the result of the situation, it is shaped by the way we perceive it. And in that understanding, the path to peace begins. Consider this. What others say or do is not a reflection of you. It is a reflection of their own inner world, their struggles, their pain. Once you see this truth, the weight of anger will lift more easily from your shoulders and peace will settle in. Now, let us turn to a small yet mighty practice, the pause. In the space between what happens and how you respond, there is great power. This pause is where your true freedom lies. When anger arises, instead of reacting immediately, take a breath. In that breath, create space. A moment of stillness is all it takes. In that pause, you have the power to choose your response. Will you allow your emotions to carry you away? Or will you choose to return to calm, to stillness, to peace? This pause is the key to self-mastery. It is a subtle yet profound practice that leads to emotional freedom. Not always easy, but always worth the effort. True mastery of your emotions doesn't come overnight. It takes patience, practice, and presence. Each time you pause, you deepen your connection to peace. At first, it feels awkward, like a foreign practice, but soon it becomes effortless, like breathing. With each pause, you reclaim control over your reactions rather than letting the world dictate how you feel. This is the path to wisdom, the space between impulse and reflection. When anger rises, don't rush into it. Instead, pause. In that pause, choose a response grounded in wisdom, not instinct, and from that place, your actions will be full of grace. Next, we turn to the art of reframing. When something triggers your anger, your first impulse may be to feel wronged, to think it's personal. Whether it's a harsh word, an unkind action, or a frustrating situation, it's easy to feel hurt. But the true path to peace lies in shifting your perspective. Instead of responding in anger, look at the situation from a different angle. Reframe it. Perhaps the rude person in front of you is carrying a weight you cannot see, a burden of their own struggles that they cannot express. Their behavior may not be about you at all. Reframing is about seeing challenges as opportunities to evolve. Rather than frustration, you might ask yourself, what is this teaching me? How can I grow through this? Maybe it's teaching you patience, empathy, or even understanding the fragility of others. Sometimes how others treat you is a reflection of what still needs healing within you. Through reframing, you begin to view the world not through the lens of anger, but through the compassionate eyes of understanding. To find peace, we must shift our gaze outward and recognize that the world is far greater than our own personal narrative. Not every event or action is a reflection of us. When we see beyond our individual stories, we can embrace life's rhythm, responding with calm and understanding instead of anger. This broader view allows us to stay centered no matter the challenges we face. Now, let us talk about the art of letting go of expectations. Anger often arises from expectations we place on the world, on others, or even on ourselves. We expect certain things from life, our friends to support us, colleagues to treat us fairly, or our plans to unfold smoothly. But life is fluid and it does not always conform to our rigid expectations. When things don't go as we imagine, frustration often follows. But remember, life is a river that does not follow our predetermined path. By clinging to expectations, we set ourselves up for disappointment. Plans will be disrupted, people will falter, and life will take unexpected turns. Instead of anger, learn to welcome life's unpredictability. Release your grip on expectations and allow things to unfold naturally. When you let go of control, you open yourself to the wisdom and joy that comes from life's surprises. In this acceptance, you'll find freedom from frustration. By flowing with life rather than resisting it, your peace will remain intact no matter what life brings. To truly master your emotions, learn to cultivate empathy instead of judgment. Judging others is one of the quickest ways to stir up anger. When we judge someone, particularly when we feel their actions or words are unfair, our emotional response often turns to frustration and anger. We think, why did they say that? Or how could they treat me like this? In these moments, we position them as the adversary, and this only fuels our anger. But imagine if, instead of judging, we tried to see the world through their eyes. Empathy is the practice of understanding and sharing in the feelings of others. Instead of rushing to judge someone's actions as wrong, we could pause and consider their struggles. Perhaps the person who was rude is dealing with personal pain that we are unaware of. People don't always act out of malice. Often they don't know how to cope with their own emotions. Judging others creates distance between us, but empathy brings us closer. When we replace judgment with understanding, we move from a place of separation to a place of compassion. We no longer feel anger. Instead, we recognize that their behavior stems from their own inner struggles, not a direct attack on us. Cultivating empathy doesn't mean allowing others to treat you badly, but it means you choose to see beyond their behavior, understanding the roots of their actions. This way, we release ourselves from the weight of anger and stop taking things personally. Instead of reacting with judgment or frustration, we respond with compassion and understanding. This practice nurtures a peaceful heart and harmonious relationships. The next time someone frustrates or hurts you, ask yourself, what is this person experiencing in their life? Or what might be influencing their actions? By placing yourself in their reality for a moment, judgment transforms into understanding. This shift in perspective dissolves the anger judgment brings. By cultivating empathy, you respond with patience and kindness rather than irritation. The more you practice this approach, the easier it becomes to stay calm, even when faced with challenging situations or people. Moving into self-mastery, we discuss the art of self-control. Self-control is a tool of power that allows us to choose our responses, especially when anger arises. It's completely natural to feel anger. What matters is how we manage it. Self-control isn't about suppressing anger, but about channeling it into a more measured, intentional response. When you feel anger stirring within, take a moment to pause and breathe deeply. This simple act creates space between your emotional reaction and your response. In this moment of pause, ask yourself, what is this anger really about? And is it worth reacting to in this moment? Often, our anger is triggered by something small or insignificant that doesn't require an explosive reaction. This pause grants you the awareness to step back and view the situation with more clarity. Recognizing that you are in control of your actions, not your emotions, is key. Emotions, though powerful, do not have to determine your behavior. In the face of rudeness or frustration, you can choose to remain calm, respond with kindness, or walk away without engaging. Self-control means making conscious choices, not denying your emotions, but mastering how you express them. Self-control is about more than managing your emotions. It's about managing the thoughts that trigger those emotions. When you feel anger rising, it's often because of thoughts like, "This isn't fair," or "Why are they doing this to me?" These thoughts amplify the anger, making it harder to control. To master self-control, the key is to observe these thoughts and decide whether you want to keep thinking them. You can choose to replace these unhelpful thoughts with more balanced ones, such as, "Maybe they're having a tough time," or "This situation isn't worth my emotional energy." By shifting your thoughts, you take back control over your emotional state. Another important element of self-control is setting boundaries. Anger can often arise when we feel disrespected or violated. However, self-control doesn't mean letting people treat you poorly. It means calmly asserting your boundaries without allowing anger to take control. For example, if someone is speaking to you in a disrespectful manner, you can say, "I don't appreciate how you're speaking to me," without becoming defensive or raising your voice. This allows you to stand firm in your boundaries while keeping control over your emotions. Self-control requires practice and patience. It's a skill that develops over time. You may not always get it right, and that's okay. The important thing is to continue practicing. In challenging situations, remind yourself that you have the power to choose your reaction. Over time, self-control will become more natural, and you'll find it easier to handle anger-inducing situations with grace. Ultimately, mastering self-control not only helps you manage anger, but also leads to greater inner peace. It allows you to face life's challenges with balance and stability. When you stop letting anger control your behavior, you'll feel more empowered, peaceful, and in control of your emotional well-being. Peace doesn't depend on external factors. It's something we cultivate from within. Once you understand that your peace is in your control, you recognize that no one can make you feel angry unless you let them. This doesn't mean that others' actions are always acceptable or that difficult situations won't arise. But it does mean you have the power to choose your response. If you choose to react with anger or frustration, you're giving away your peace. However, if you choose to stay calm, composed, and centered, you're protecting your peace and maintaining emotional control. Realizing that you are in charge of your peace also involves letting go of the need to react to every situation around you. We often get caught up in trying to fix things, change people's behavior, or make everything happen according to our plans. But life is unpredictable, and people don't always behave the way we expect. If you're always trying to control everything, you'll burn out and lose your inner peace. True peace comes when you accept that you can't control everything. You can control how you respond, but you can't control the world. The more you release the need for control and focus on how you respond to life, the more peaceful you will feel. Peace isn't a one-time achievement. It's a continual choice. Every time you face a challenge or a potentially anger-inducing situation, you have the opportunity to choose how to respond. Will you let your emotions take over, or will you choose peace? The more often you choose peace, the more naturally it will flow into your life. When peace becomes a priority in your life, it slowly becomes a habit, something that feels automatic with time. One of the most powerful tools for maintaining peace is mindfulness. Staying present in the moment helps you avoid being swept away by emotional currents that others may try to create. Mindfulness allows you to witness your emotions without being overwhelmed by them. You'll notice when anger or frustration begins to build, and instead of reacting, you can choose to respond with calmness. This practice strengthens your ability to stay peaceful regardless of external circumstances. Another key aspect of protecting your peace is creating healthy boundaries. When you allow others to overstep your boundaries or take on too much responsibility for things beyond your control, it's easy for your peace to be disturbed. Setting boundaries is a way to protect your emotional well-being and ensure you're not giving away your energy to things that drain you. This might mean limiting time with negative people, saying no to requests that don't align with your priorities, or stepping away from situations that create unnecessary stress. Ultimately, when you recognize that peace is something you can choose at any moment, you reclaim your power. You stop relying on others or external events to dictate your emotional state. Instead, you become the source of your peace. Life will always present challenges, but by acknowledging that you are the protector of your peace, you can face each challenge with clarity and calm. Remember, no one can take your peace from you unless you allow them to. By realizing that your peace is yours to protect, you can navigate life's ups and downs with resilience, knowing that no external situation can disturb your inner calm unless you let it. The more you embrace this knowledge, the more you will experience peace and centeredness, regardless of what life presents. One of the most powerful practices for keeping your emotional balance intact is embracing the power of forgiveness. Anger can hold us hostage, keeping us locked in the past and preventing us from moving forward. Over time, anger can build up, affecting both our mental and physical health. But forgiveness is the key to unlocking freedom from that grip. When we forgive others, and perhaps even more importantly, forgive ourselves, we unlock the door to peace and emotional liberation. Forgiveness doesn't mean that what happened was acceptable, nor does it require us to forget the pain. Forgiveness is not about excusing someone else's actions. It's about freeing ourselves from the destructive power of anger, resentment, or bitterness. Holding on to grudges means that the person who hurt you continues to have power over you even long after the event. That power is not worth holding on to, especially when it prevents you from living in peace. The key thing to understand is that forgiveness is for you, not the other person. Forgiving someone doesn't change their behavior or the past, but it does change how you feel about it. It allows you to let go of the emotional burden and release the anger that keeps you tied to a painful memory. You choose peace over conflict, freedom over bitterness. Forgiveness also means forgiving yourself. We often carry the weight of our own mistakes, and this guilt can lead to frustration and anger. By forgiving yourself, you release that weight and open yourself to healing, growth, and change. Remember, everyone makes mistakes. When you practice self-forgiveness, you stop being your harshest critic and start being your biggest supporter. This shift allows you to handle mistakes with understanding, compassion, and a willingness to learn rather than reacting with anger. Forgiveness takes time. It doesn't happen all at once, and it's okay if it feels tough at the beginning. Start by acknowledging the pain and anger you're holding on to, and then make the conscious choice to release them. One powerful starting point is to say or write, "I forgive you," even if you don't feel it right away. Over time, this intentional act of release will help loosen the grip of anger and resentment. Another powerful tool in the forgiveness process is mindfulness. Mindfulness brings awareness to our thoughts and emotions in the present moment. Often, we carry anger and resentment from past wounds, and these emotions continue to impact how we feel now. By practicing mindfulness, we become more aware of when those old feelings of anger or resentment resurface. Instead of holding on to them, we can consciously let them go. The more aware we are of our emotional triggers, the easier it becomes to choose forgiveness and release negativity. It's crucial to recognize that forgiveness doesn't mean accepting harmful behavior or allowing others to hurt us again. It's about creating healthy boundaries to protect our emotional well-being. Forgiving someone doesn't mean inviting them back into your life the same way they were before. Forgiveness is about releasing the hold that their actions have on your inner peace. You're choosing to move on, free from the past's influence on your current happiness. Forgiveness is the most powerful form of emotional self-liberation, allowing you to reclaim peace and well-being. By practicing forgiveness, you stop letting others' actions determine how you feel. You regain control, choosing peace, healing, and growth over anger and bitterness. This is a practice that can transform your life, enabling you to live with emotional peace, regardless of the challenges you face. Gratitude is a remedy for anger because it redirects our attention from pain to abundance. When you practice gratitude, you start to see the world through a lens of possibility and plenty. Instead of dwelling on what's wrong, you train your mind to seek out the positives. This shift has a profound impact on how you view situations and people. Anger often arises when we focus on what isn't working, but gratitude allows us to pause and recognize the blessings in our lives, both large and small. It not only helps reframe our perspective, but also strengthens our emotional connection to life's positive aspects. To use gratitude as a tool for managing anger, it's essential to practice it consistently. It's not something you should only turn to when you're feeling down, but rather a part of your daily routine, no matter your emotional state. One powerful way to practice gratitude is by keeping a gratitude journal. At the end of each day, write down 3 things you're grateful for. These can be simple things: a warm breeze, a friend's kind word, or a nourishing meal. The aim is to focus on the good even when life feels hard. By beginning your day with gratitude, you set a positive tone for the hours ahead. When you face challenges, gratitude will help you look for blessings, shifting your focus from frustration to appreciation. It fosters a mindset of abundance, reminding you that even in tough times, there's always something to be thankful for. Another powerful method for practicing gratitude is by expressing it to others. When you take time to thank someone for their kindness, support, or simply their presence, you create a deeper emotional connection with them and redirect your energy away from negativity. This act strengthens relationships and supports your emotional well-being. Acknowledging the good in others shifts your perspective, allowing you to see them with compassion and understanding. This shift helps prevent anger and frustration from taking over. Gratitude also clears the way for you to release grudges and negative emotions. When you're focused on the things you're grateful for, there's no room for bitterness or resentment. Consider a situation where someone has wronged you and you feel the pull of anger. Practicing gratitude in such moments can shift your mindset completely. Rather than fixating on the wrongdoing, you begin to focus on the joys and fulfillment in your life. This doesn't mean that you excuse the wrongs done to you, but rather you choose not to let them dictate your emotional state. When you make gratitude a conscious choice, you free yourself from the grip of anger and create space for peace and healing. Gratitude is not just a practice, but a tool that rewires your brain. Research shows that focusing on the positive aspects of life leads to the release of mood-boosting chemicals like dopamine and serotonin, promoting a sense of well-being. As you practice gratitude more consistently, your brain becomes conditioned to see the positive in every situation. This makes it easier to maintain composure, even when faced with anger-inducing circumstances. The beautiful thing about gratitude is that it's accessible to everyone. No special tools required. You can start practicing it right now, regardless of your current circumstances. The more gratitude is woven into your daily routine, the more you will find peace and calm in the midst of challenges. Needing to be right all the time creates walls. It turns conversations into battles. But what if you let go of that need? What if you chose to understand instead? By listening more, by caring less about winning, you open the door to connection. You grow, you learn, you become softer and stronger. Letting go of being right doesn't mean giving up your truth. It means making room for others. It means understanding that your truth isn't the only one. You stop reacting. You start exploring. You meet disagreements with curiosity, not conflict. Not everything is personal. Not every opinion is an attack. Often, it's just a different view. And when you let go of that emotional tug of war, you feel lighter, freer, no longer tied to validation, no longer chasing approval. You just breathe. You stay calm when others are loud. You stay grounded when others push, because you're not trying to win. You're choosing peace. And that choice, that's everything. You are no longer the storm. You are the stillness after it, not fueling conflict, but planting understanding, not insisting on being right, but choosing to be free. Isn't it wearying, that constant effort to prove yourself? As if the world were a courtroom and your beliefs forever on trial. But then, release. You let go. And in doing so, you rise. You drop the armor. You drop the fear. No longer do you need to defend every word you say. You greet each voice, each view, with an open hand, not a clenched fist. Because your value, it isn't measured in victories. It's measured in presence, in how gently you hold space for others and for yourself. And oh, the peace that flows when you admit, I don't know it all. What a powerful thing. What a relief. It softens the mind. It opens the heart. It whispers that life is not rigid, but fluid, a dance of change and learning. When you surrender the throne of being right, you take your place in something far greater, the rhythm of growth, of curiosity, of evolution. In this surrender, you are not diminished. You are awakened. Your relationships deepen. Your conversations turn from combat to communion, and the burdens you've carried melt in the light of presence. Because true power isn't in the last word. It's in the quiet choice to listen. And mindfulness, it becomes your compass, the breath that brings you back, the calm in the chaos, the soft voice saying, here, now, this is enough. In the whirlwind of our fast-moving lives, it's all too easy to drift into the shadows of yesterday or the worries of tomorrow. Both pull us away from the calm of the now, stirring emotions like anger into motion. When we lose presence, we lose balance. And in that imbalance, impulsive reactions often rise before awareness has a chance to speak. Mindfulness is the anchor that holds you steady. When you root yourself in the present, you gain the clarity to avoid being swept up by waves of frustration. The first step is simple: awareness. Notice your thoughts, your emotions, the subtle shifts in your body. This is where it begins. Anger does not always shout. Often it whispers first, a clench in the jaw, a tightness in the chest, an irritation flickering just below the surface. When you're mindful, you catch the whisper before it becomes a roar. You see the ember before it becomes a flame. So when someone says something that strikes a nerve, you don't have to react. You pause, you breathe, and in that pause, you reclaim your power. A powerful tool in that moment is the breath. Deep, conscious breathing. When you feel anger starting to rise, close your eyes if you can. Breathe in slowly, let your lungs fill. Breathe out, releasing the tension. This simple act awakens the body's natural calm. It cools the fire. It brings you back to this moment, right here, right now. And in that space, you choose, not from habit, not from impulse, but from peace. Judgment is the matchstick. Strike it, and anger ignites. They shouldn't have said that. You shouldn't have done this. Why is the world like that? We pour fuel on the fire with every label we lay down. But mindfulness? Mindfulness says, pause. Let the flame flicker, but don't feed it. Just see it. Not good, not bad, just real. So instead of screaming inside, they disrespected me. You whisper to your soul, I'm noticing this heat. I feel the fire, and that's okay. That shift right there, it changes the game. Because when you stop judging your emotions, you stop being ruled by them. You tune into the body like it's a sacred drum. Clenched fists? That's your beat. Racing heart? That's your rhythm. Tight shoulders? That's your cue. Mindfulness doesn't numb the pain, it helps you hear it. And from that place, you breathe, you move, you walk it out, you stretch, you don't explode, you evolve. And then comes the compassion, the soft light after the storm. You stop seeing people as enemies and start seeing them as echoes of their own pain. Maybe they're hurting. Maybe they're lost. Just like you, just like me. We're all trying, all human, all healing. Compassion is the soft river that cools the fire of anger. When you let go of blame and the need to be right, you choose peace over pride. You begin to respond with empathy, not ego. And in that space where understanding lives, healing becomes possible. The walls between us fall and connection grows in their place. Mindfulness, too, invites surrender. So much of our anger arises from the desperate need to control. We try to shape outcomes, direct people, bend situations to our will, but life does not flow in straight lines. When we resist what is, we suffer. Instead, mindfulness teaches us to witness life as it unfolds, not to control it, but to embrace it, to let go of the grip. And when we loosen that grip, frustration fades. In its place, calm rises. This gentle acceptance carries us even through chaos. When practiced regularly, mindfulness becomes a sanctuary. It sharpens your awareness, grounds your emotions, and allows your heart to choose intention over reaction. In time, mindfulness becomes more than a habit. It becomes a way of being, a quiet strength that lets you meet adversity with grace, a calm inner flame that no storm can blow out. By tuning into your breath, releasing judgment, and leading with compassion, you free yourself from the cycle of anger. You don't just react, you respond with clarity and calm. And with that, you'll find that peace is not found outside, it's something you carry within. Build your resilience like roots, digging deep into earth. Let storms pass, winds howl. But you stay grounded. Emotional resilience isn't about being untouched, it's about not being undone. Anger comes fast, like lightning in the night. But when you're resilient, you don't strike, you listen. You don't explode, you expand. You find space in the chaos, breath in the heat. You train this resilience like a boxer trains his stance over and over till the shake turns to stillness. You grow it like a seed that chooses the sun even in shadow. And the key? It's the growth mindset. Not why me, but watch me. Not I'm broken, but I'm becoming. Every setback becomes a stepping stone. Every frustration, a fire to forge your strength. You stop pointing fingers. You start pointing forward. And when things don't go your way, you don't spiral. You ask, what's this teaching me? You whisper, how can I show up better next time? That's the real shift. That's the move from rage to reason, from helpless to healed, from reaction to response. And in that space, you don't just survive the storm, you rise through it. In the garden of emotional resilience, self-awareness is the sunlight. It reveals what was hidden. It warms the places we once feared to look. When you are self-aware, you sense the first whispers of anger before it shouts. You ask yourself, what has stirred this wave within me? And slowly, answers arise. A pattern, a person, a familiar sting. This noticing is not judgment, it is insight. And insight gives you choice. You begin to tend your environment with care. You remove the thorns. You soften your steps. You align your day so the breeze flows gently, not wildly. But even more, you gaze below the surface. You see that what we call anger is often a veil. Beneath it waits fear or sorrow or the aching echo of feeling unseen. A driver's careless move may ignite the flame, but perhaps what burns is the old wound of not being valued, and in this realization, the fire cools. You do not fight the feeling, you see it clearly, and then gently you apply the balm. A coping practice, a breath, a pause, a return to presence. This is how resilience is born. Through awareness, through compassion, through deep listening to the soul beneath the noise. In the journey of self-mastery, the wise carry a sacred satchel of practices. Among them, movement, the art of walking off the storm, running through the fire, dancing with the wind. They turn to the stillness of breath, the presence of now, the meditative gaze that tames the wild mind. Or they pour their spirit into creation, painting, writing, singing, alchemizing emotion into beauty. This is the sacred toolkit of resilience. But the wise do not walk alone. They are tethered to kin, to counsel, to companions of heart. A hand held in silence, an ear that listens with no intent but to understand. These bonds soften the heart, keeping the fire from consuming. Isolation breeds distortion, but sharing, the ancient act of speaking one's soul, brings balance, clarity, and calm. And in this practice, one must not forget the gentleness of self-compassion. The warrior may conquer lands, but the sage learns to forgive the self. Harshness within only deepens the wound. Compassion heals. So when the spirit stumbles, when mistakes are made, do not strike with anger. Offer kindness. Whisper, "You are growing." In this grace, the storm inside quiets, and the resilient heart rises anew. In the stillness of understanding, we find the wisdom of emotional resilience. To manage anger is not to suppress it, but to strengthen the self that meets it. When we nurture a growth mindset, cultivate awareness, choose wise responses, and embrace the presence of others, we begin to walk the path of peace. Resilience is the silent strength that carries us forward. It allows us to encounter life's storms without losing our center. And in this quiet strength, anger loses its grip. The more we grow in resilience, the less power anger holds. To release anger, we must also release the illusion of control. Much of our suffering comes not from the event, but from our resistance to it. When we accept that there are forces in life beyond our reach, we free ourselves from the anger that clings to the need for certainty. The path to peace begins with this recognition: we cannot change others, but we can change how we respond. We cannot change the past, but we can choose the wisdom we carry forward. Resilience is not resistance. It is flow. It is the still pond beneath the stormy skies. And in that stillness, we find peace. Not because the world is quiet, but because we are. Ever notice how the more we resist something, the more we wish a tough moment would just go away, the angrier we seem to get? Thoughts like, "This isn't fair," or "Why is this happening to me?" only turn up the heat. But acceptance? That's the cool down button. And here's the thing. Acceptance doesn't mean you're okay with what's happening. It means you're not letting it drag you into a storm of stress. It means saying, "Okay, this is what's going on right now. I don't like it, but I'm not going to fight it either." One of the most beautiful ways to lean into acceptance is through the serenity prayer. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. It's such a powerful little mantra. It helps shift your attention to where your control actually lives, in your attitude, your choices, your voice. And here's another trick. Let go of those perfect picture expectations. You know, those mental scripts that say things should go a certain way. When reality veers off course, we feel let down, angry even. But if you can release that grip and remind yourself that life's meant to be unpredictable, you'll feel so much lighter. And when you expect the unexpected, you stop being surprised when things change. You roll with it. And life, it gets a whole lot easier to enjoy. It's a hard truth to swallow, but sometimes people just won't change. And that's okay. We often get angry when we try to change someone else's behavior, especially when it doesn't align with our own expectations. But here's the key. People are on their own journey, and they'll change when they're ready, not when we want them to. Letting go of the need to change others is one of the most freeing things we can do. The moment you stop trying to control someone else's actions, you begin to feel a peace that was always there, waiting for you. Everyone is responsible for their own path, and you're free to focus on yours. Acceptance also means learning to embrace the present moment. It's easy to get caught up in the past or worry about what's to come, and that's when anger starts to creep in. But when we choose to focus on the here and now, we release the weight of regret and fear and invite peace into our heart. Mindfulness, whether through breathing exercises or a simple moment of pause, keeps you grounded in the present. And self-compassion is just as important. It's natural to get angry when we feel mistreated, but treating yourself with kindness and understanding helps you let go of that frustration and makes room for peace. We all face challenges, but when we're gentle with ourselves, when we embrace self-compassion, we free ourselves from the anger that can hold us back. Acceptance, in its simplest form, is about letting go of unnecessary emotional suffering and stepping into peace. Self-reflection is an incredibly powerful tool for understanding and managing your emotions, including anger. It's the simple act of looking inward, examining your thoughts, feelings, and actions, and discovering what drives your reactions. The more you practice self-reflection, the better you'll understand the root causes of your anger, and the more in control you'll be over how you respond rather than just reacting impulsively. By making self-reflection a habit, you take responsibility for your emotions and create space to choose how you want to respond to different situations. The first step is taking a moment to check in with yourself. We often rush through life and forget to pause and assess how we're feeling. Anger can sometimes hit us out of nowhere, and before we know it, we've reacted without really understanding why. But when you practice self-reflection, you create a pause that allows you to ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? What triggered this emotion? This pause gives you the power to move from reaction to thoughtful response. One of the best ways to practice self-reflection is by journaling. After an angry moment, take a few minutes to write about the situation. What happened? How did you feel? What thoughts came to mind? And most importantly, why do you think you reacted the way you did? Journaling is a safe, judgment-free way to process your emotions and gain clarity on what's happening within. Through journaling, you'll uncover patterns in your thinking and identify the beliefs or expectations that may be driving your anger. Many times, our anger comes from the expectations we place on others or on life itself. Expectations that may not always be realistic. Think about a situation where anger creeps up. Someone is rude to you. The frustration stems from a belief that people should treat you with respect. While that's a valid expectation, it sets you up for anger when others don't meet that standard. This is where self-reflection comes in. It gives you the space to challenge your assumptions, to decide if they're truly helping you or if they need a shift. By identifying the beliefs fueling your anger, you can challenge them, changing the way you think about certain situations. This shifts your mindset and lessens the emotional weight attached to those triggers. Self-reflection also means taking full responsibility for your emotions. It's easy to say, "They made me angry," but real emotional mastery comes from owning how you respond. You can't control others' actions, but you can control how you interpret and react to them. Self-reflection allows you to take charge of your feelings and ensure your responses align with your values. When you take responsibility for your anger, you stop giving away your power and start reclaiming control over your emotional state. In addition, self-reflection nurtures empathy and understanding for others. It's natural to assume others' actions are meant to hurt you, but when you reflect, you might realize they weren't intentional at all. Maybe they had a rough day or didn't realize the effect of their words. By stepping outside your emotional reaction, you gain a more compassionate perspective, allowing you to approach the situation with patience and understanding. Finally, regular self-reflection can help you prevent anger from escalating in the future. By recognizing the patterns and triggers that lead to anger, like feeling disrespected or ignored, you become more equipped to handle similar situations with calm and control. Once you understand your emotional triggers, you can begin to take control of your responses before anger takes over. This could involve setting healthy boundaries, communicating more consciously, or developing effective coping methods when feelings of upset arise. The more you engage in self-reflection, the more adept you become at handling similar situations in the future. At the core of self-reflection lies the practice of self-compassion. It is crucial to approach your reflections not with harsh judgment, but with kindness. When you reflect on moments when anger arose, avoid the temptation to chastise yourself. Instead, offer yourself the same empathy and understanding you would extend to a friend. Acknowledge that you are human. Just like everyone else, you are bound to make mistakes. Self-reflection is not a practice of self-criticism, but one of learning and growth. And when you approach yourself with compassion, you free yourself from guilt and shame, creating space for emotional healing and a healthier mindset. In conclusion, self-reflection is a transformative tool for understanding your emotions and gaining mastery over your reactions. By taking time to examine your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, you uncover the underlying causes of your anger. It gives you the clarity to recognize patterns, challenge limiting beliefs, and take responsibility for your emotional responses. Self-reflection also nurtures empathy, compassion, and growth, which gradually diminish the influence of anger. As you continue reflecting, your emotional intelligence and resilience grow, enabling you to meet life's challenges with greater peace and wisdom. Through this process, anger becomes less of a reactive force and more of a stepping stone to personal transformation, understanding, and serenity.